In the matter of the people of the state of California versus Orenthal James Simpson, case number BA097.
And so, my fellow Americans, ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for
There we go.
country.
We are formally, officially recording. Taylor, it's Sunday. How's your weekend been?
Great. We got to spend the day in Big Bear yesterday, which was super, super fun. We went to the Big Bear Zoo. We went to the lake. The kids went swimming in the lake. They loved it. Yeah, it was super fun.
I saw I don't even know if it was Instagram or Facebook or what it was, but I saw the pictures and it did look really, really fun. Is that like Arrowhead or is that a different lake?
That's a different lake.
Okay. I confuse it
Big
too.
Bear Lake. Yeah, I don't know
Big
what
Bear
Lake
Lake.
Arrowhead is, but it's only like an hour and 20 minutes from here, and it's just like a totally different environment. It was like kind of cool weather-wise, and there's pine trees, and yeah, it was fun.
Yeah, it's good to be out in nature. I went to a concert on Friday, and it just reminded me of how old I am. Like I was there and like my hairline is about to touch the back of my neck and my beard is white and everybody there was just like so young and just like jumping up and down. I was like, does your back hurt when you do that?
What
And
concert did you go to? What was it?
it's called Slender Bodies. It's two guys who I think are siblings, and it was very, very fun. You should watch some of their music videos because I'm not trying to shame anyone, but one of the guys is like not great looking, and one of the other guys is like a very good looking dude.
Oh my gosh, so
And
funny.
watching them perform live, I was like, oh, so you're literally here because like your mom told you you have to let the good looking one play with you because all the talent is in the one that's not that good looking. The guy can sing like a incredible. Came up with lyrics, all of this is his, the beats, everything he said, and then the brother is just sitting there like just like trying to look hot and like doing like the smooch kiss lips. Like it was just like
I
what are
don't
you
know. I guess we've talked about this. I have white man with a beard face blindness. They look the same to me. They're just two white
look
guys
them
with a
up?
beard. Look exactly the same.
Uh Okay, yeah, okay. So the images that I'm finding, I get it. Yes. The guy with the glasses was like, he looks very different in person. Like he was probably about 100 pounds heavier than he shows here with like a
Got it.
really gritty looking beard. Like he's not, like he's clearly been on the road and enjoying himself, you know?
Good for him. That's so
Yeah, good for
funny.
him. So anyways, went to that, realized that I'm too old and I should
I
just,
mean, it's also like we were in Austin like 12 years ago, maybe. And like so a long time ago. And we were at a bar and my sister and I were hanging out and then like Juan went to get us drinks and he was waiting behind the bar, like or behind someone at the bar, and the girl in front of him turned around, looked at Juan, and then turned back to her friend and said, "That guy is so old." And he was like 29.
yeah, well, yeah, I can't even imagine what people were thinking when seeing me there, like trying to
Yeah.
like I was doing the robot. I was doing the robot. I was crushing it. I was doing the robot, side to side, left to
Uh,
left, up, down, grease the motor. Yeah,
Ladies of Austin, Flash
yeah.
is available.
Can you believe it?
Oh my God,
Um,
amazing.
so, anyways, no, that was good, and then made some smoked some meat yesterday and just chilled. So it was nice. It was nice.
Nice. Very cool.
But let's go ahead and kick things off. Welcome to Doom to Fail. I'm Fars. This is Taylor. We are covering a historical thing
Today.
today,
Yeah.
and we'll do the true crime one on Wednesday. So I guess we'll start with me describing what I'm going to be drinking. So my story is going to take us to India.
Ooh, that's cool.
I know, impressive, right?
Hmm.
And because of that, and because I tried it for the first time this morning, I'm going to go with a dirty chai latte.
Oh, how was it?
It was really good.
Was it? I kind of feel like why am I drinking this potpourri whenever I'm drinking chai? But
But it's like spice. It's like this Indian spicing. I thought it was great. And you should try
great.
it.
Awesome. Good for you. Congratulations on expanding your horizons, Fars.
What are you drinking, Taylor?
Well, I think I've done it before. I'm physically drinking coffee, but I do very much I had some mead because I'm going medieval again. So we're gonna go further back, and I know that they had wine, but I feel like mead is the medieval drink in like a goblet.
Yeah, meat sounds like something. It's hearty. It's very hearty. It's something you have when it's cold outside. There's
Hmm.
troops at the gate. The drawbridge is up, and you're drinking mead.
Yeah, I definitely drank mead in London. We bought it at the Tower of London and drank it on a boat on the Thames. So it was like
Mood, so much mood.
very, very fun when I did like a 2 week study abroad in London in grad school. So that's where I am right now. That's my vibe.
I remember.
Got
Do
it.
you remember that place in Oh my God, it had to be Hollywood, right? The German place, the only German place that there was like a brewery type thing. Did
Hmm.
we
I
ever
don't think
go
I
there
remember that.
together?
I don't think so.
Yeah, ping pong tables. I used to go there and play ping pong. Well,
No.
anyways, winter times were always fun to go there because they always had that like warm wine, muddle
I
wine or
love warm.
whatever.
Yeah, I love mulled wine. I have like a big strainer that you fill with spices, then you put it in the pot with the wine and then the sugar and the juice, and then I'm the only one who drinks it. So then all of a sudden, everyone
More wine
else
for
is like,
you.
"Ooh, I'm sipping on this wine," and I'm like, "I've had 7 bottles of wine. Like, what's going on, everyone? This is just delicious juice. What is wrong with you?" So
You got to share that with me whenever it gets cold because I would love to be the household that just always smells like warm wine.
I love it. And actually, for Florence's birthday, oh, I did cider with the mulled wine ball, and I just filled it with spices, like extra spices and apples and oranges, and then I had honey whiskey, and we mixed honey whiskey with the cider, and it was delicious.
I think that's just a hot toddy.
No, hot toddy is whiskey and tea. Anyway, it was
Okay.
cider. Yeah,
I'll
whatever.
absorb that.
They probably drink that in these times as well. So, did you look at my timeline yet that I shared
Yeah,
with
it's
you?
incredible.
Thank you. Isn't it fun? So there's like the big space in the middle where it's interactive. It's on our link tree if everyone wants to see it. You can click on it and kind of hover over the bubbles to see. It goes in order of the newest are at the top, our oldest episodes are at the bottom, but then it does like the timeline of the years. And so there's a big gap in the middle, obviously, that I can see. So I wanted to bring us back to the year 1066 and talk about the Battle of Hastings.
Okay.
Um, so if you are British, which you're not, even though you were born in the UK, right?
I identify as British because women like British men more than non-British men.
100% true. Um, so if you are a British person and you hear the number 1066, I imagine they're like, oh my God, that's the year. Like that is the year. British history, like so much happened in 1066. People fucking love it. For this episode, I listened to some podcasts. One called the British History Podcast, just called British History. It's by an American dude who does not, I was surprised that he did not have an English accent, but his episodes are all different lengths. I mean, this was like episode 300 of his, but it was 3.5 hours long about the Battle of Hastings. And he had like, it was really well produced, but he had like the same song that would play over and over again when stuff would get like really tense. And so you'd like hear the same song over and over again. And then he'd have other music that was like in at different times. And then at the very end, I was driving in Joshua Tree National Park to pick up my kids from camp. So I'm by myself in this like big, beautiful park. And I'm looking at like the monitor in the car and I'm like, there's only 2 minutes left of this podcast. Like I know what's gonna happen, but it hasn't happened yet, you know? And I'm like, what is gonna happen? So I'm listening and I'm like, do I have it wrong? Is there like a part two that I don't know about? And it ends with a slash and it sounds like blood splatter, and then it goes into the song, the Hello Darkness, my old friend, and that's it. And I was like, I yelled, I screamed, and like put my hand over my mouth and gasped because it was such a good ending of like a
That
battle,
is
battle, battle,
very
battle, battle.
creative.
The guy dies. So it was super good. I'll link to it. I also purchased a subscription to History Hit, which we follow on Instagram and is, I think mostly British history, but a lot of like medieval history, documentaries, that kind of thing. So I watched some of those. So those are all great. There was some stuff on History Hit about just medieval times and like living in this time. So talking about how, people are religious, but they're not necessarily like prudes like we think that they are. People are always having sex, it's just like not what you write down for the
Right.
for the most part. There also was a fun, not fun, but the church, this is a Catholic time. So the churches obviously has like their dumb rules. And one of the rules was like you can never be naked because like being naked can like lead to sinful things. So I imagine that like
What, the
we
Catholic Church?
Mhm.
Oh, okay.
But in this, like everyone's really stinky as well. So I know we talked about that a lot before, but you know, it's a real gross time, especially if you're
Yeah,
like never naked.
I would for sure be a prude if I was in during that time. Like even just yourself, the smell of yourself. How do you, how would you even get turned on? Like it's,
I mean,
God, it's so
if
gross.
everyone's doing it, I mean, if everyone smells that way, then like, how do you even know that they smell bad? You probably get used to it.
That's true. Sometimes I walk into my house after I've been away for a while, and I'm like, I should really start leaving the windows open.
Ew.
Sorry.
Okay. But we talked about this time as well. I think I don't know when we talked about it, but like no one's ever really clean, no one's ever really healthy. It's just like a time where it's rough. Being alive is rough during this time. It's also like technically the medieval period, which is technically like some of the dark ages, but as I think we've also talked about before, you don't say dark ages anymore because like shit was happening. It wasn't nothing, and stuff was happening all over the world. But 1066 is a big year for Britain. So we're in Britain, and um, how do we know what happened 1,000 years ago? So that's something I also freak out about a lot is like, oh, it's on this piece of pottery or whatever. So there are some records, some like municipal records from different towns. The invading armies in this time were taking like censuses because they were planning to tax people. So there's some things like that. William the Conqueror, he's the one who ended up winning. He wrote a book. Well, he had someone write a book for him like 20 years later called the Doomsday Book, which is super cool. That has like the history of his conquest of the area, but mostly it's from a tapestry. So there's a tapestry called the Bayeux Tapestry, spelled Bayeux. So like French word. It is
Yes.
it's 20 inches tall. So like I'm doing this for you, like a foot and a half tall, and it's 230 feet long. So it's like
Whoa.
super short and like so long. So it on Wikipedia, you can like click on it and it'll show you the whole thing, and it's like a tiny little line on your screen, and you can like zoom in and go all the way through it. But that's how we know what happened in this battle. It's literally like a hand embroidered step by step of what happened.
That's pretty
And
cool.
that's what we're using, which is cool. People spend their whole lives, again, studying this. They're like obsessed with it. Like, oh, what does this stitch mean? Or like, there's one where one guy is next to a boat and he's like touching the boat. They're like, is he touching the boat or is he not touching the boat? I don't know. And you're like, oh my God, how are you ever going to find out? But
That was
it's cool.
when I was in Dublin, there's this thing called the Book of Kells, which I'd never heard of before, but it was at Trinity College, which I went to. But
I
have you
saw
heard of
it.
this thing?
I saw it. Yeah.
Wait, you actually saw it at Trinity College?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So it sounds like that because you look at that thing and it's like there's like these people that just stare at this thing and wonder like why did this thing, like why did this letter look this way? It must have been a
Exactly.
different scholar that did it. Was that scholar related to this? It's like ha- wormhole all
No,
the way down.
exactly. So like we don't fucking know anything. I don't know how we know anything. But like yes, a lot of this is from this tapestry. And like from these old documents that you're saying, these like all that it's exactly what you think. All those beautiful like illuminated documents that are like, painted really pretty and all of that. So the Bayeux Tapestry shows the conquest of England by the Normans. And that's where we get a lot of this. It all happens in the one year, 1066. I was actually typing this earlier, and Miles, who's just learning how to read, he's 6, he was like, you keep writing 1066 over and over again. And I was like, yep, that's the year. So all happens in this one year. In the very beginning of the year, on January 6th, the King of England, Edward the Confessor, dies with no heir. So he was an Anglo-Saxon king. So like English, you hear like Anglo-Saxons. They ruled England post the Roman Empire from the year 450 until 1066. So he's like the second to last Anglo-Saxon king. And Edward the Confessor had a wife but no kids. And everybody's name in this is like super fun. So like Edward the Confessor, obviously that's like saying that he's very religious and like very pious. But I
Oh, that's
also,
what it was.
that's what it means. But I also hope it's a little bit where he's like, I did it. It was me. And you're like, oh my God, you couldn't have done everything, Edward.
I know. He seems like a meek, like sad guy who's just like, you can blame me.
Like who spilled the juice? Ooh, it was me. Like Edward, it couldn't have been you. Like stop it. Like there's some really fun ones. There's one that was like someone like the undecided or something. And I feel like I wish that like that was just because you like didn't want to go out to dinner with him. You know, you'd be like, "Where do you want to eat?" He'd be like, "Ooh," and you'd be like, "Oh my God, like I can't. You're so annoying." So Edward the Confessor, he spent some of his life in Normandy. Normandy is in France, and he was exiled there, but then came back to England and became king. He was king for about 30 years. He built Westminster Abbey, where I'm sure
Sweet.
you've been to there, and so have I. So like he built that. He was obviously very religious. There were some people who took some like pilgrimages to Jerusalem for him. And he was married to a woman named Edith, but they did not have any children. Whether that's because, for whatever reason, they didn't have kids. No one really knows why. Did you? I can't remember if you watched House of the Dragon. Did you?
No, I never got around to that one.
Okay, well, there's a part, spoiler alert, where like the king dies and does this deathbed confession that is like bullshit at best. He like says something to someone that you think, I think he thought it was someone else and like whatever, and it like ruins everyone's life because he like said one thing in like his like delirium of being about to die, which is almost exactly what happens now. So Edward the Confessor dies, and on his deathbed, he says that he wants Harold Godwin, who is his wife's brother, to become king. So like, who knows if that's what he really wanted, but that's what he said allegedly on his deathbed.
Wait, to
And
who?
I don't know. Harold
Okay.
himself, a
Because it sounds
squire.
like Gladiator, where it's like coincidentally the king told the guy that he wants to be heir completely in private right before he, like, you know what I mean?
Exactly. That's exactly what happens in Game of Thrones. It's the exact
Right.
same thing. So it's like you should have now I don't want to go back on this because I know that I like had a different opinion, I think, when we talked about Henry VIII. But you should just like have one son and make it a good one. Like, I don't know,
I mean,
have one good one.
or just have witnesses.
Yeah, like write shit down or something, but whatever. For whatever reason, Harold Godwin becomes King of England. He had been an earl before. There's a lot of like little earldoms around, like little tiny things happening in England. He has his sister Edith, and he has four brothers. Nope, five brothers. This is real hard for me. Listen to these names. This is like Old English slash potentially Viking. There's Tostig. Godwinson. Tostig, Tostig. There's Sven, but spelled Sweyn. There's Girth, Gyrth. And there's Leofsven, which is Leofwine. I have no idea how to pronounce that. And then there's Wulfnoth, which is actually kind of fun. So
His name's Girth.
Girth, Gyrth.
God,
Oh my God.
that
Lord
is
help
it
me.
is it is probably hard to live up to that name.
It's very hard. So he has all these brothers and then his sister Edith. So Edith and Harold get names that are easy to pronounce and everyone else is difficult. So it's a very, there's Vikings in the north. It's Anglo-Saxon. They're still kind of have Roman things around, obviously, because like the Roman cities are still there. But Harold becomes king and is not as simple as that because there's other people who think that they have the right to be king of England because there's no successor.
Of course.
So there's two big ones. There's the Viking king, also named Harold, who's Harold Hardrada, and the Norman William the Bastard, who lives in France.
Why did he? Why did they call him the bastard?
Why do you think? I feel like I do wish, again, I wish it was like, God, that guy's just a fucking bastard. Like, you're a bastard. I don't know. When do you say bastard? I don't feel like I never say that. I obviously would never say that about a fatherless child.
I think that word like went out of style as a reason or the way to insult someone. Like I don't think I've ever
I don't
gotten to
think
the
I've
point
ever
where I was
called
like,
anybody a bastard.
because it
No.
doesn't even sound like an insult. You bastard. And it's like, dude, yeah, nobody, like everybody's parents are not married. Like it's like,
It sounds like a little dastardly, like maybe, I don't know. I don't know, but it's for the reason that he was born out of wedlock. That's why he's William the
I
Bastard.
figured that.
Yes. So William the Bastard and King Harold Hardrada. England itself is not very big in the context of other countries. It is about 300. I'm going to do miles because that's how I think because I'm
That's
American.
how it should be.
It's about 300 miles across and 600 miles up and down. So that's how big it is. You could obviously drive across it pretty quickly. Like you could drive across it now, but think of this time, it is 1066. It is very, very hard to get across England. You're either walking or you have horses, but your horses are going to get tired. It's going to take forever to make these like long journeys across the country. So like keep that in mind. This year is spent trying to figure out how to rule, stop people from rebelling, and work with his brothers in the church. So that's what Harold Godwinson is doing right now. He's just trying to figure out how to get everybody together, get everybody behind him as the king. So it's a weird year. The king died in January. In April, Halley's Comet goes by, which is exciting. And like they probably thought it was magic, you know?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. Um, Last night in Joshua Tree was the Perseid meteor shower that
I know.
happens once a year.
I had ambitions of watching it, and it just never happened.
It's cool. We went out maybe a little bit early. It was like 12:30. We should, if you were out in like till like 4 a.m., it would have been nicer. But it was fun. People in town were mad because there was like a line to get in the park even at midnight, like of cars just trying to get there. But we saw a fair amount of them, so that was fun. But Haley's Comet, obviously the big one. Even last time it went, all those people
That was
killed
a big deal.
themselves. It was a
Yeah.
big deal. So some people are like, this year some shit's gonna go down.
Was that Haley's Comet or was that Hale Bop?
Is that the same thing? Is it different? Oh, wait, was it not Halley's Comet?
You talk. I'll look it up, and then we
Okay.
can.
I thought it was, but I could be totally wrong. It could be something else. So now it's the autumn of 1066 and shit's about to go down. The first thing that happens is Harold's brother, Tostig, his oldest brother, has been exiled. He used to be an earl. He's been exiled. Like there's so many little like fights happening all the time. And he goes to Norway. And he and King Harald Hardrada of Norway come back and invade England in the north near York. That's the best place for like a Viking to invade England, obviously. Like they come on up into the north. There's a bunch of rivers. They can like start moving their way into England. So they know that they're coming and they come. Did you look it up?
It was Hale Bop.
It's different? What's Halley's Comet? Why is it called that? Okay, don't
Haley's
don't look that up.
Comet, or no, no, no. Well, now everybody's screaming into their cars of like which
Ugh.
one is which is which. Is Haley's Comet the same as Hale Bop? No, Haley's Comet is not called Hale Bop. Comet Hale Bop, sometimes written as Hale Bop Comet, is completely different comet.
That's not helpful. It just tells me they're different, but it doesn't tell me why.
Halley's Comet, on the other hand, was officially confirmed in 1758, whereas Hale Bop was found in 1995. I don't. It doesn't. Just we can. They're comets, guys. Thank God we got to the end of that though.
Base is huge. Okay, great. Anyway, either way, if you don't know what a comet, even if you know what a comet is, it's crazy. And if you don't know what a comet is, it's even crazier because you're like, what the fuck was that? That just happened. So, um, that happened in April. So now it's autumn. The Vikings are coming into the north. They end up in the city of York. York was founded by the Romans a very, very long time ago. And they come in and they've been there for a few months and they are just like pillaging. And this whole time, there's like all these dumb kings trying to be like, oh, I want to be in control of England. And there's so many people just trying to fucking not die, you know?
Right.
And you're just like trying to like have your little farm, have your like one cow and like not get killed. And these fucking Vikings are coming in trying to take over. And I'm sure people are like, I don't give a shit, you know? Or they're like, I do care and I'm gonna fight. I mean, who knows? But like you're just trying to like survive for most people. And so they're coming in, they're ransacking, they're making deals with local armies, specifically the Northumbrians, who are some people in the north of England. So they're doing terrible things. And King Harold hears that they're doing all this stuff. It's his brother, it's the Viking king. So he's like, fuck, we gotta go. We gotta go up there and stop these guys. So in September 1066, King Harold and his troops go up to York, which is very hard. They're already at the bottom of England, near Sussex, waiting because they know that William the Bastard is coming from France. So they're waiting for him to come. But in the meantime, they have this shit to deal with in the north. And they're like, fine, we'll go up there. And so they run literally just like as fast as they fucking can. They get from the south of England to the north of England. So it takes like a couple days for them to get there. And think about like, it's not like a car. It's not even like a wagon. It's like a couple guys on horses. Most people are walking, like 7,000 men dressed like knights walking across
It had
England.
to have taken more than a couple of days.
But they did it really fast, and that's part of the problem. So I'll tell you
Uh,
more about it because they're fucking tired, you know? So they like barely stopped. I'm certain it was raining the entire time. You know, you're wearing like pounds and pounds of metal. And there's also like the logistics, which I think we've talked about. So like, who's eating what? What are you drinking? Are there, herdsmen? Are there cows? Who's making dinner? There's just so much stuff going on. But they get up there, and now Harold Hardrada and um, the brother Tostig have 200 to 300 ships, so a lot of ships, and 7,000 to 9,000 men. So it's like not clear exactly how much, but they have a lot of people there. I actually have a number for the distance. The King Harold and his troops went from the south to the north. They did 185 miles in 4 days. So they completely
it's a lot.
surprised the Norwegians. Yeah, it's a lot, especially if you're walking.
Yeah. Yeah,
It's a lot.
especially the logistics,
Yeah.
like you mentioned.
So now it's September 25th, 1066. King Harold brought his forces up from the south. They're ready to fight. They're in a town called Samford, and this is a battle of Samford Bridge. There's also people from around England. Some of them are on the king's side, some of them are on the Norwegian side. The battle starts with a rider coming up to Tostig and King Harold Hardrada and saying, Tostig will give you your earldom back if you just come and fight on our side. And then they were like, Vikings, you guys can just leave, we'll let you go. And then they said, the rider said to King Harold Hardrada, we'll give you 7 feet of English soil because you're kind of tall, meaning like that would be his grave.
Oh
He's like,
wow.
we'll kill you, and the
That's
brother
a
can come back.
that's cool. That's a cool way
It's
to say
cool.
I'm gonna kill you.
Yeah, you can have 7 feet of English soil. But they say no, and that rider was probably King Harold himself. So he was like, listen, we can make a deal real fast. And they were like, nope. So then they start fighting. It is They're literally bottlenecked on this bridge. Like the two competing armies are on different sides of this bridge. And the legend is that there was one really big Norwegian guy just on the bridge with like an axe, just like,
God, so cool.
like stopping people. So he killed like 40 people allegedly until someone finally went underneath the bridge and speared him from the bottom.
Ah,
So like to get rid of him, which is so fun. And that caused a delay so that each side had time to like get ready. And so the English were like, had like their big shields. They made like a wall of shields, um, and a lot of people because it was like a real marshy land. On a bridge, there's a lot of like England mushy. So a lot of people just drowned. Many people, thousands of people died. The Vikings thought it would be super easy, but after some confusion and it kind of went back and forth, the English are able to push them back and they run back to their ships. Like they literally run back to their ships. Both Harold Hardrada and Tostig, the brother, are killed, and only 24 ships make it back to Norway. So out of the like 200 to 300, only 24 make it back. And King Harold makes a truce with Harold Hardrada's brother Olaf, and they're able to like go back to Norway. So this is also kind of the end of like the traditional Viking era because they were stopped from invading England. Um, so King Harold Godwinson and his people are in the north and they're fucking exhausted. They just lost a ton of people. There's like bodies everywhere. Like both of these battles that I'm talking about, like for 100 years you could see bones on these fields. That was just like that totally so much carnage. Also, like as soon as the battle was over, everyone else would go in and take everything off the bodies. So like now it's just a bunch of like naked bodies everywhere because they took their armor, they took their clothes, they took their shoes, they took everything from them and just like left them there.
I mean, better that they're at least when they're naked, they can decompose faster because animals will eat them quick. I mean, I'd
Oh,
rather
totally.
I'd rather a bunch of naked dead bodies in my front yard than clothed ones.
Yeah, but like what a job. That's what I think about. Like ripping the
True.
shoes off of a dead guy. Did you ever see The Postman, the Kevin Costner movie?
No.
So like he like made all those obviously like Waterworld and Dances with Wolves and all those like big epic movies. But he made one called The Postman, and it was like a post-apocalyptic world where a he like wanted to like go from place to place. So he like pretended to be a mailman and ended up actually like sending letters and whatever. It's like a real time. There's a part where Tom Petty's in it, and Kevin Costner goes, "Weren't you somebody once, man?" And Tom Petty's like, "Doesn't matter now, man." Anyway, but this is a long point to get to this. He becomes a postman because he steals a postman's like a USPS worker's if you know why I'm laughing. Like uniform off of someone who's like dead in like a mail car, but the body he takes it off of is like a full skeleton. It's like from a fucking doctor's office. It's so funny. It's like
Is
it's
it
not like
supposed to be a comedy?
no, it's supposed to be like, oh, I'm taking this uniform off this dead body, but the dead body is like no dead body would look like that with a nice uniform on it. It's just really, really funny. I like laughed out loud, and the end of it is terrible. So anyway, don't watch that. I don't
And
recommend or not recommend.
recommendation, counter recommendation from Taylor.
Yes, it's both. Um, so okay, everyone's fucking exhausted. But they have to go back. They have to go back south because now the Duke of Normandy, William the Bastard, is coming. As expected, William the Duke of Normandy, William the Bastard, all the same person, was actually blood related to Edward the Confessor, like via an aunt. So this is like everyone's lives are being destroyed because these guys like can't figure out who's going to be in charge now. So he says that Edward the Confessor said that he could be king. So that's why he's invading from the south.
Makes sense.
William the Bastard also is rumored to have the support of the Pope. So he's flying the Pope's banner. So to show people that like he's on the side of God, which I also feel like you could just make up,
Yeah,
like
who's
who's gonna fucking tell the
Wikipediaing
Pope?
that? Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like you could totally make that up, but whatever. But William the Bastard becomes in this year of 1066, William the Conqueror. So that's who he's gonna be for the rest of the time. Spoiler alert.
Oh, wait.
It's William the Conqueror.
Oh, the bastards. Oh, wow. Okay, the same guy.
Yeah, same guy. So when William the Conqueror and his people start conquering from France, it takes them a while to get there. I also feel like how I feel England isn't very big. I also feel like it's easy to cross the English Channel because I know people have swam it, but I know that like I couldn't swim it, so I don't really know how hard it is to get across it. But I know you can just like get across it real fast. But it was really hard at this time, and the weather was fucking terrible because it was the autumn in England. So William the Conqueror left Normandy on September 12th, and you'll remember the Battle of Stamford Bridge was like September 25th. So they thought that he was coming, but he didn't come when he was supposed to because he got stuck. He had to like the weather was terrible. A couple of ships sank. And so it took him a while to actually get there. But when he did get there, he got there on September 27th, which is 2 days after the Stamford Bridge battle up in the north. He arrived in Sussex with about 7,000 men. And they started destroying shit like immediately. They were like burning villages, coming through, being like, we're going to be in charge now. Like everyone needs to like be on my side. So they just started like destroying shit in Sussex and southern England. So King Harold has to run there from the north, from York, where he just finished a battle. Everyone's exhausted. They traveled 240 miles in 3 days to get there. It was like lightning speed marching through England.
So the English Channel at its narrowest is only 21 miles. I bet you could swim that.
I don't think I could swim. I can barely swim across a pool.
I'm just giving you hope. That's all.
I appreciate you.
So much
Sure.
pain.
Sure. So King Harold and his men get there. There's other men coming from kind of all over, but the King Harold's army is mostly like infantry people who like have to leave their villages. It's like a deal where it's like this month, this percentage of our male population has to be in the army,
Yeah.
like it always is. So as those people, there's people called the Fyrd, Fyrd. They're like people who are like ride horses and like can like come in and help. So it's a lot of people who like aren't that organized, but they're all coming together to support King Harold. So now it's October 14th, 1066. It's this is the Battle of Hastings. So they got back down to Sussex, spent a couple days figuring things out. Now this is the battle itself. And this is a day. So it starts off, the Normans had archers, the English didn't. So that actually made it harder for the Normans because at first, after they did their first like arrow attack, they didn't really get arrows back. They kind of like just kind of went out and they never got them back. So they didn't have a ton to do. There's also a rumor in the very beginning that William the Conqueror is dead. So his men start to retreat because like also like I don't know how you would know fucking anything on this battle when it's loud and like the counts are like all you heard was like you hear like you see in a movie. People are yelling. You hear swords hitting each other, like metal on metal. Like I don't know how you would hear anything, but
Dude,
William the Conqueror.
I can't even follow those scenes in movies. Whenever I watch those scenes, I'm like, okay,
How do
like
you know?
the camera angle just pans real quick. Like, who do I like? Who do I not like? I can't imagine being in the middle of that.
Yeah, everyone looks the same. You're just kind of swinging. Like I don't know, but
Yeah,
William has to ride with his helmet off past his men, going, "I'm alive," so that
that's
people
fun.
just continue to fight,
That's a
which is
fun
fun.
day.
Yeah. Like, hey guys, I'm alive. Keep going. King Harold's brothers, Girth and Leofwin, are there with him as well. They both die early in the day, but they have their own like little armies that are kind of going around and doing different strategies. Their poor mother is still alive. So all of her kids died this month. Like her son Tostig died up north on the other side. Now her two other boys are dead, and Harold's gonna die. So it sucks to be their poor mom. Um, they probably also stop for some breaks. You don't really know what's going on, but like it's all day long. Um, there's no records of prisoners, so it seems like everyone was killed. Like they
Yeah,
just, they didn't take anyone. There's a lot of shield walls, some fights where they would like pretend to leave, but like not leave and like trick each other. So there's like little things happening all around. It's like a field where it's like a field where 20,000 men are fighting. So
right.
it's all this stuff happening. So it's pretty awful the whole day. There's tons of blood. Everyone's super injured. Eventually, so King Harold is killed. We don't really know how. This is where in the tapestry, it shows King Harold potentially with an arrow through his eye. So they're like, maybe that happened, but then like people can't agree if it's really him or not. So it's just like we were saying before, like no one really knows how he died, but he definitely did die during this battle. Um, After he dies, everyone then retreats on his side, which again, I don't know how you would know that because there was like that rumor in the morning about William. Like, why would you believe someone saying that Harold was dead,
I mean, I would
right?
just retreat anyways. Like, what are they gonna do to me? I just like start going the other
That's fair.
direction. Like,
Yeah. Run away.
just do that trick. It's like that trick, the thumb trick your uncle always does when you're a kid,
Hmm.
except you do that with an arrow in the eye and just like hold the arrow really close. You're like, oh
Ah,
my God, it's in my
ah,
eye. And then like after you
ow.
pass and you're like, I'm gonna go have some meat and chill out.
That's hilarious.
Trick.
Um, so yeah, so the king is dead, so everybody starts to retreat, and the Normans have won. William becomes William the Conqueror. The next day, King Harold's body is officially found. His poor mother offers William the body's weight in gold to have him back, and he says no, and no one knows what happened to his body. They probably threw it in the ocean or like burned it or something. And then William and his troops go north to London, and it's like not perfect because there's battles all around and poor regular people are just trying to live their fucking lives. They're like, all right, you're in charge now. I don't care. Whatever.
Yeah.
I just don't want to die. I want my men back that went out to this war. So William the Conqueror is crowned King of England on Christmas Day, 1066 in Westminster Abbey. So the year went from January 6th to the king dying, new king, tons of battles, Halley's Comet, tons of battles, Vikings up north, Normans down south. The Normans come in and conquer, and there's a new king on Christmas Day, 1066. So that's the
Wait,
whole
how many
year.
years is that?
One. It's all in one year.
Wow.
It all
A lot
happens in
of shit.
1066. Yeah. So this ends Anglo-Saxon rule in England. And I mean, I'm so sorry to any English scholars listening to this, but essentially, the medieval period is now with William the Conqueror, Henry II, Richard the Lionheart is happening now. In 1215, the Magna Carta kind of limits the power of the monarch. Later, then there's the first Tudor kings in 1485. It's Henry the Seventh. Then we have Henry the Eighth, and then so on. It just kind of like keeps going. But this ends Anglo-Saxon period, moves us over to the Norman and the Plantagenet dynasties ruling England, and then later there'll be the Tudors and the Stuarts and whatever we have now. Um, Another one fun thing that happened during this as well, and because of this, is it began the transition from Old English to Middle English, like the language. So Old English is like, for me, impossible to decipher. Middle English gets a little bit easier. But because the French were the conquerors, they became the ruling class. So French words became the words we use in English for more fancy things. So like the French word for cow and like is like beef. That's like what you call like the food. So that we took that word from France. You know what I mean? So we use like
Yeah.
cow for the animal because that's what the poor people were doing, and then beef for the food because the rich people were actually eating it. So like we did get some fun like French words move into the English language that kind of clarifies some things and starting to have like one language around England. But yeah, that's it. That's the crazy 1066 year where thousands of people died so that whatever one dude could be in charge of England.
Um, I had several thoughts while you were talking.
Please
So
go.
one of them was one day, just to really confuse everyone, I'm gonna I'm gonna spend the entire day driving by all my friends' houses and just shouting, "I'm alive." Like, how
I'm
confused.
alive.
And then they start texting each other, like, did Fars just drive by shouting he's alive? Like, there's no context whatsoever. Um, and the other thing was, man, you look at like King Charles right now, and it's like that guy, that guy probably like he couldn't hold a sword if his life depended on it. And yet these kings,
No.
what was one of the Lionheart, the
Yeah, right. Yeah,
Conqueror, the whatever? And it's like, dude, these guys were like, they weren't like politicians; they were freaking savages.
I know. And some of them were like not young, Like William the Conqueror was like out of shape and like a big guy and like just did it. Like, he just was out there with them. Um, my dad always regrets not giving us the middle name the Lionheart.
Yeah, that was a big miss.
Yeah.
Sweet, awesome, cool story.
Yeah, yeah, again that's something that people spend their whole entire lives doing. The History Hit documentary, there's several dudes who spend their whole lives just walking around those fields trying to imagine the formations and find the bones and all of that. So lots of history, but a crazy year that we know about because of art, which is cool. And
So I thought that you were doing a seven-part series on volcanoes.
I am, but I'm not doing them in order because then those would be a volcano podcast, and who would want to listen to that?
Volcanologists.
How many volcanologists are there? Seven?
If
My,
you're
okay.
if you're a volcanologist, can you please write to doomtofailpod@gmail.com, please, and let us know. Taylor's again for the silent portion of the podcast. Taylor's researching how many volcanologists there are in the world,
There's 2,000.
and one of them is Pierce Brosnan. Can you believe it?
Are volcanologists in demand? It's going to grow 7% in the next 10 years, which is higher than the average profession. Yeah, speaking of that, of volcanoes, no, I'm gonna do volcanoes. I plan to finish the series by the end of the year, but I don't want to do them like back to back because then it would be like, I feel like that would be a lot.
So many
Um,
volcanoes. Got it.
but since we were talking about volcanoes last week and in talking about volcanoes, we did mention Hawaii. I did make a donation to the Ayana Momana Fund. I'll put it in our stuff, but I did it on our behalf to help people of Maui this
Aw,
week who
that's
are
awesome.
yeah, I thought that we should, since we were talking about natural disasters and shit is very, very, very bad in Maui right now. So I made a donation from Taylor and Fars. Um,
Aw,
so we can hope, get some help to those poor people who lost everything. And I think as of now, there's like a thousand people missing. It's
Jesus.
real bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Real bad.
Yeah,
Well, thank you for doing that, and
welcome.
thank you for sharing your story. And are there any acknowledgments, or shall we cut this off?
That's it. Cut it off. But again, we're on TikTok now. Everything is doomed to fail pod. I'm getting the transcripts up on our Simplecast site. We're on YouTube. You can definitely find us there if you want to. I'm adding some fun Midjourney AI stuff to our YouTube videos, and the ones from last week were really funny because it was like I was like, do like a Neanderthal man, and one of them had like three arms, and like you can't really tell originally, but then so I put like little comments in the video that made me laugh. So hopefully made people laugh too. They had like the Neanderthals with like spears that kind of looked like guns. They're like spears, but they had like a gun also on it. And so I was like, this is probably actually from the future when like everything goes back and we're like Planet of the Apesing it.
Yep, that's
Kind of
how
what it
that's
looks
how
like.
we're devolving. We're gonna go
Yeah.
backwards.
Yeah, so I'm trying to, make those a little more interesting. So I'm just putting a bunch of images in those. But yeah, find us there. Please tell your friends. We have about 100 solid listeners every week. Tell someone.
And
Tell your
we're
friends.
trying to grow that to 3 million a week.
Mm-hmm. Uh-huh.
So we got a ways to go. So the more people you tell, the better it will be for us. We'll get there
Exactly. We'll get there.
eventually. Awesome. We'll go ahead and cut it
Awesome.
off. Thank you, Taylor.
Thank you.